Vielä pari USA-videota on julkaisematta. Tällä videolla kirurgi ilmiantaja Eithan Haim kertoi omin sanoin siitä, miten hän joutui poliittisen ajojahdin kohteeksi kotimaassaan, kun hän paljasti, että hänen työnantajansa tekee salaa sukupuolen muokkaushoitoja lapsille ja ilmeisesti jopa väärensi hoitokoodeja saadakseen vakuutusrahat. Hänen kielenkäyttönsä voi kuulostaa aika roisilta suomalaiseen korvaan. Hän ei säästele sanojaan puhuessaan poliittisesta vasemmistosta, mutta miten itse puhuisit, jos olisit saanut FBI-agentit perääsi, menettänyt koko omaisuutesi oikeusjupakassa ja eläisit maassa, jossa on juuri pari viikkoa aikaisemmin tapahtunut poliittinen murha?
Dr. Eithan Haim, you were telling here on GenSpect seminar that you're a whistleblower, and you exposed that in Texas Children's Hospital. Did I get it right that Texas state banned the gender treatment for minors? They had banned them, and you knew that they still did those treatments in the hospital.
Yeah, so in February of 2022, the Attorney General of Texas had issued an opinion that transgender interventions on kids could constitute criminal child abuse. So as a result of that, Texas Children's, TCH, the largest children's hospital in the world, had issued a statement saying that they were going to shut down the program because of the potential criminal ramifications. It kind of makes sense, right? If the Attorney General says one thing, that this could be child abuse, the hospital says, we're going to shut it down, nothing to see here. But what the reality was that they just continued it. Like that week, they continued it. The statement came out on March 4th, and they were back to surgery on March 7th, So when I blew the whistle, what happened the day after was that the Texas Senate passed SB 14, which was a law that banned transgender interventions on children. So like it codified it with both Republicans and Democrats. So technically, the law was only made illegal the next day. But I would argue that it's always been illegal because to do this to a child is criminal negligence and assault, right? Because you're intervening on a child when there's no disease present, right? You're exposing them to the risks of hormones, blockers, and surgery when there's no potential benefit to be gained.
Yeah, and the thing what they did, they somehow, with the treatment codes, diagnosis codes, they used different diagnosis codes than what they really did, the treatment.
Yeah, and that's one of the most remarkable things is the other whistleblower. After I anonymously blew the whistle, there was a second anonymous whistleblower. It was a nurse who worked in the transgender clinic. She saw it firsthand what was happening. And after these stories came out, the FBI, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, right, HHS, all came after us. And they sent FBI agents to her home, which then she called Chris Rufo called us. And then both of our stories, took place, kind of independently of each other, but they were kind of meeting towards some point in the future. And after I was indicted on 4 felonies and faced up to 10 years in prison, this other whistleblower finally took her story public. And in that story, what she alleges is that Texas Children's Hospital not only was lying about this program, but she alleges that they were fraudulently billing Medicaid using different techniques to deceive the Texas government and insurance companies. And for those of you not familiar with like how big of a problem that is, that's like a really, really big deal. So of course, these were allegations that she made, and you can decide to believe them or not. It's my belief that it seems that they're likely true because, this is something that the left-wing NGOs and medical organizations have been talking about a lot, which is how to use false diagnosis codes in order to get insurance companies to cover these interventions. And what I mean by cover is to pay for reimbursements because, you can't get hormones or surgery unless it's paid for by insurance. So what do they use to get those payments is false billing codes. What I believe. That's what I believe is the case.
Do you think the same thing could be going on different states before or now?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think absolutely, especially in blue states. I think it is a very high likelihood that doctors in transgender clinics like in California, Washington, New York, Illinois, they're fraudulently billing. It's my belief that they are fraudulently billing insurance companies and state insurance uh, in order to get reimbursement when insurance companies would otherwise not cover it. And that's a big deal. That's something that doctors go to prison for. That's something that hospital CEOs and administrators can go to prison for if they're in on the scheme. It's a big deal.
That's unbelievable. But the part that was most shocking to me was that the FBI was after you, and so it was Biden administration. Was it like Rachel Levine, or what was the thing about?
Yes, you had the most powerful figures in the most powerful federal leviathan in human history who had weaponized their authority in order to send me to prison. So yeah, it was the top levels of the Department of Justice, the top levels of Health and Human Services, all working towards sending me to prison. So yeah, this was like a very concerted effort by very powerful figures because of what we were able to achieve as anonymous whistleblowers. Like if they had to destroy us in order to send a message to everyone else.
And all because of their ideology, that they are doing the right thing.
That's exactly it, is that these people have bought into something that's evil, right? A lie that is destroying the lives of these innocent children and vulnerable adults. And they have to hold on to this lie that they're the good people. But in reality, they're the monsters they're accusing everyone else of being. And if they have to accept that fact, I don't think their minds will be able to take it, which is why they're fighting so hard against people like us. We thought that after, Trump became president that things were going to change, but as we've seen, things have only gotten more severe, more violent, right? Where the leaders of our movement, like Charlie Kirk, are being publicly assassinated in the most heinous way possible. And almost the majority of the political left celebrates it and justifies it and calls for more of it for people like us who are completely peaceful. So I think that people on our side have to start realizing what kind of beast we're up against, and that we have to start fighting aggressively.
How did you get away with it that they didn't send you to prison?
So we fought a lot. So, I told this story publicly because of the corruption I was seeing when I was anonymous. For the first 6 months after the agents came, I remained anonymous because, it was terrifying to think like I would go public and people would know my name because I'm like a very private person. I know it doesn't seem like it. Like the only person you guys know is like the public Eithan, but like the Eithan I was my whole life was a very private person. Never had social media. I had a very small friend group. And there was some point where I knew they were going to destroy me unless I told the story publicly. I needed help because the only factor that leads to victory in this situation is whether you're able to defend yourself legally. And that requires a huge amount of money. So we had no money at the time because we went completely bankrupt. So we told the story in order to develop an army of people who were willing to support us, and that's what we did. So we raised like $1.3 million. The case was still like 2.5, so we're still in debt a huge amount. And we were able to fight it, and even though we fought it and proved all of their case, anything they claimed against me was untrue. It was the first time in American history that they had that HIPAA was used not to protect patients, but multi-billion-dollar hospital system and physicians who lied to the public. It was a complete manipulation of the law, and we had to fight against that, and we ultimately won.
Thank God. What about the thing someone talked after your speech, that there's this software company that has this tool that they somehow register trans kids' organs? I didn't get it.
Yeah, so when Epic is the largest electronic medical record company in, I believe, the world. They're based out of Madison, Wisconsin. So whenever like a doctor logs into a computer to like check his patients, you have an electronic medical record, the EMR, right? So you go and you click on the patients and then look at the orders and then their labs, all that. That's what Epic is. So, Epic had heavily bought into the transgender ideology, after 2020 and probably before that. What they had integrated into their medical record system was something called the organ inventory. So when you look at the most, basic demographic information for a patient, like their age and their sex, and you click on that, you're brought to a form, right, that outlines what organs does this person have, right? Like their breasts, uterus, cervix, vagina, penis, ovaries, things like that. And the whole point is and it also has your pronouns and like what you identify as. So it's like this dystopian like way to classify your organs. Like that is somehow who you are. But it's totally crazy. And that was for every patient in the Epic medical record system, both adults and children.
Sounds like almost like transhumanism.
Yeah, it's like a sci-fi movie, but in real life, and crazier than even the most absurd sci-fi movie. Yeah, it's like this idea that you could just pick and choose which organs you have, and like somehow if you remove your uterus, you become a male. It's crazy. Yeah.
So we really disagree on that, what it's all about, to be a human being,
Yeah. It's this, not a conflict of opinions, it's this conflict of reality where, people like us say the sky is blue, but then you have this huge portion of people who say, no, it's green. And at some point, there's going to be a conflict between those two, because in our case, these disagreements have to do with fundamental components of our society, how we interact with each other, right? What we do to people in a hospital, and what we do to vulnerable people who believe in something that's not true. Yeah, so it's not a simple difference of opinion. This is something much deeper, something much more sinister, something that has a much greater implication for our future.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thanks.